Signalis. Genuinely one of the most incredible games I had the pleasure of playing, and honestly, it's just one of those games that, me personally, I think you should just genuinely play it rather than just watching the rest of this video. Just go spend like 20 bucks on Steam, unless it's on a discount, then you can save money there. But like, just go, just go play this game. It's genuinely really well done, and I'm gonna tell you why under 3 categories, as I'm kind of tired of talking about this game mechanic and that game mechanic, yada yada yada. So we're gonna go over 3 things. 1, art style. 2, overall sound design, and then finally a little bit about some game mechanic stuff, specifically the puzzles, because that, oh my god, you have no idea how long it took me just to do one of them. So instead of just yapping on and on, let's just get this video under the way. Cue the music. The art style seemingly takes heavy inspiration from Resident Evil 1, which also goes into gameplay a little bit, as the camera is permanently locked in one spot. However, notably in Resident Evil 1, the camera was locked in multiple different positions, but you couldn't move it regardless of where it appeared, at least in the original games. However, in Signalis, it is always consistently right above the player, right above, I'd say, like 78 degrees? I'm not sure about that. I could be very wrong. Overall level designs make sense, as each levels at least communicate to the player of what they are. However, visually, each of them are quite unique. For example, in this clip, we are in the classroom area, sort of the entry level of the facility, as we're actually at a mining facility on the planet of Rotfront, which we'll talk about later. A lot of the architecture in the mining facility that we're located in throughout the entirety of the game feels very, I guess brutalist would be a good word for it. Although I'd more or less compare it to the interior of a spaceship in something like Alien. Similar door structures and whatnot to the main bulkhead doors. Although it kind of reminds me of the original Half-Life or the Black Mesa remake, which has similar undertones of, well, it being a laboratory. Granted, it's a lab and not really a military compound that is also a mining area that we use to, I guess, gather resources? That part's actually never made clear as far as I'm aware. I could be wrong, but haven't really looked into it in depth. Character design-wise, each of them are incredibly unique, as each of them clearly signify of what type of being they are. For example, enemies are very rotted and distorted, and, are, zombies and whatnot. Meanwhile, human beings are pretty well dressed and decently well clothed. Like this gestalt that we find in the middle of the game named Isa Ito. And our player character, who you can also see on screen, is what is known as a replica unit. And in a nutshell, replica units are basically neural patterns of an original human being, copied down into a digital format, then reprinted onto new bodies, so on and so forth. And this single part of the game right here deeply reminded me of Blade Runner. Now, granted, in Blade Runner, these things were actually nearly identical to human beings, and can only be really detected by physical testing and whatnot. Meanwhile, in Signalis, you can immediately tell what a replicant is based on their body, as their legs are incredibly pointy and have no feet, and their overall physical features appear more mechanical, or appear like armor on their bodies. While some do actually wear armor and other uniforms, they have the distinct feeling of being a robot with a human face on it, Granted, they're a sexy robot, but that's besides the point. To give a few examples, or just one in particular, let's talk about Falk. Falk is a commander unit used to control or monitor an entire facility on an entire planet by herself, which is incredible. Did I mention she's also a psychic powerhouse, able to read and control other people's minds while also being able to use her psychic prowess to lift and throw objects. And based off the final boss fight we have with her, throw psychic waves that appear to be black holes? I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, she can create microsingularities with her mind, which is terrifying to say the least. I think you get the idea on what I'm trying to get at overall. But there is another one I actually would like to talk about though. Just like Commander Falk, who I'll be referring to as Falk going forward, are the Calibri units, who also are psychic powerhouses, although on a much weaker scale. Okay, in a nutshell, these gals are basically psychic specialists that specialize in communication, as that's seemingly what they were made for. They're able to extract information directly from the mind of either a replica unit or a human being with little to no issue, without directly communicating with them using, speech and whatnot. Which makes them arguably one of the more dangerous ones, as they can influence a person's perception of reality, as the more corrupted variants that we encounter in the game actively make us see things double, which means the moment we enter the room with them, we actively become schizophrenic. Thankfully, the weakness is the good old-fashioned radio. Now, that doesn't really have to do anything with them overall like artistry and whatnot. I just thought it was cool that these gals can communicate psychically. I think that's really awesome. Which probably means they talk shit behind you in a Call of Duty lobby. And why am my voice cracking so much? You know what? That's it.
Lift the pizza, Calibri!
Yes, you're doing it! Good stuff! Good stuff!
Wait, Calibri, stop! Too much!
What was I gonna say? Right. So, in terms of enemies, they all appeared very burned. In the game, it's heavily suggested to be some sort of biological infection, but based off what I'm seeing, it looks like their bodies have been sort of burned or sort of melted away. It's hard to tell. With aspects of their bodies distorted, it's no wonder a lot of them appear very bloodied and whatnot. Additionally, it also seems to play a role in how they operate and function. For example, Minya, the boss I'm currently fighting as of right now, has her entire internal body seemingly liquefying under that suit, and the only thing keeping together is her armor, which is terrifying. But now when she's not infected by this biological disease infecting both humans and replica units, she is actually seen as more of a mother figure, as she's very kind and heartwarming to around others, despite her enormous stature indicating that she could probably send you flying with a single punch. Additionally, she can't really get out of her own power armor as it covers her entire body. I think the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of the enemies' designs are very distorted into what they are now. Whoever they were before is just unrecognizable. All we see is their bodies and a screeching voice that we hear upon seeing them. And with that, let's segue into the next part of the most important part of the game, sound design. Now, the track you're currently hearing playing as of right now is something I already played earlier. It is the Safe Room OST. It's the sound that plays that when you enter the safe room and you get to relax. It's typically heard in stylized games like this, like Resident Evil, which, this game obviously takes inspiration from. A quick editor's side note, while editing this, I am very sleep deprived, so on occasion you'll hear me just sound like a complete drunkard. I'm so sorry. Anyways, go back to the video. This particular song feels very melancholy. In a sense, it's not very joyful, but it's reassuring. Yes, you're safe here. That's a fact. Nothing's gonna hurt you here. But at the same time, you can't stay for long. You have to keep going. That's at least the kind of vibe I get from this. However, there is one thing I do want to particularly discuss, and that is the combat theme. Each of the pieces of combat music are absurdly intense, that give the sense of going up against something that's almost impossible for you to defeat, in a sense, while other tracks sound like a screeching demon, which is horrifying. An example of one of these happens to be the track Ride Control, which sounds like a bunch of drums or people banging on shields, getting ready to fight you. Just take a listen. I think you get the point of what I'm trying to get at. The music has such an intense, almost nightmarish feel to it that feels almost unreal at times. I remember first hearing it during my first playthrough of the game, which you're seeing on screen right here, and it took me very much by surprise, because I was wondering, oh god, why does it sound like this? It hurts my ears at times, admittedly. But as I sit there and listen, I realized it's intentional. They're not trying to make your ears hurt. To me, it sounded like, because it didn't feel like it had rhythm, but in truth, it did. Each of the themes that play out through the entirety of the game signify a certain section, but more importantly, what type of enemies you'll be encountering. Ride Control referenced the fact that there's an enemy with a shield. I actually forgot their name. Give me 1 second. They're called star units. It took me a second to look it up. But in a nutshell, they kind of connect to the enemies you'll be encountering throughout the game. At least I'm far aware of. Guns also sound very distinct, with the pistol sounding very light and crisp, and the shotgun feeling very guttural and powerful. And then the rifle? That thing sounds like I'm firing a fucking anti-materia rifle, and god damn does the gameplay match up to the sound. And the revolver makes me feel like Revolver also won. I genuinely have no idea what I'm even doing at this point. What did I talk about earlier? Oh, right, the music. And one final thing to note about the other parts of the music is that some of them have this sort of melancholy, nostalgic feeling to it. Like you're reliving some memories. One particular one that stood out to me was Die Totenenzel. I probably butchered the name, but it means, or the actual name apparently is emptiness. And man, does this theme, it's something. It's got this feeling of melancholic nostalgia. Everything we've ever been through, all the memories, all the trials, all the struggles we went through to get to this exact point comes flooding back, and all of it has been leading to this exact moment. And now it's time for us to fulfill our promise to her, Ariane. At least Elster, anyway. Not me, obviously. I got nothing like that, sadly. And if you're wondering what's happening in this scene, Sesbian Lex. Yes, I know. Very intelligent. okay, but real talk though, she's about to kill her in order to set her free from the torment of being in a time loop, which is happening according to the story. I'm gonna be 100% with y'all, Chief. Even after playing through the game for one round, I still have no idea what the hell's going on. And honestly, I kind of like that. Gives me an open opportunity to play the game again. I might. This video does okay, I guess. The puzzles in this game are pretty damn good. A lot of them, however, make sense to an extent. Like, the more mechanical ones require you to find the right objects, to put them together. Like, pick lock on a key by putting the actual parts of the key lock, and then using a key to, unlock it, and then cracking code on a safe. Which... okay, you know what? That one actually drove me nuts, because, oh my god, this single safe in, like, what was it, the second part of the game, drove me crazy! Because for some reason, I couldn't figure out how to crack the code for it. So I sat there for nearly 2 hours trying to figure out how to unlock it! And I'm also gonna throw up some parts of the game that I tried to figure out in real life, like code cracking. I took pictures, man, wrote stuff down, and still couldn't figure out some parts of it. I don't know if it's just my Gen Z brain not understanding how to fucking do any of this, because I genuinely have not played a game that actually has proper puzzles in years. The last time a game had proper puzzles that I had played was in Skylanders, and that was back when I was like, what, 11 years old. That is baffling. So, going into this drove me fucking crazy! Because at some parts, I genuinely would get stuck so fucking long! Like the goddamn radio puzzle! Which I had no idea you have to use audio for it! I think what I'm trying to say is, the puzzles in this game are great. And... the puzzles in this game are great. I'm just very, very stupid. Okay, now to actually properly talk over them instead of rambling on and on. I'm so sorry. A lot of the puzzles tend to have a lot of backtracking, which is not really that surprising considering the fact that this game was clearly and evidently by the store page inspired by the Resident Evil franchise, which is notorious for all its puzzles and backtracking. A lot of the puzzles give you direct hints of what you need, usually in the form of notes that you can find around the map. Like this one here, talking about how we need to match the water levels equal to one another by figuring how to balance all the waters in each singular tank and whatnot by overflowing. Once you solve it, you can go about your day and continue on. Forgive me, I'm a bit brain drained at the moment. I got stuck on this one for about like 20-ish minutes. Isn't bad, it just took me a while as I was having a hard time just trying to figure out how to match the water up with the levels correctly and whatnot, as each one takes up to the maximum total rather than just small amounts, so you have to balance out the water flow for this one. The ones I felt personally that were kind of really difficult were ones that involved around either code cracking, like the saves, or admittedly the radio puzzles. I don't know why it didn't click in my head that, hey, these things have holes on the top and look like a microphone, and the radio produces noise, and hey, maybe, just maybe, we could use the radio sounds from our body that we have using a built-in radio to communicate into these microphones, to activate them. I don't know why I missed that. This is something that's pretty communicated well to the player, as upon first activating the radio, upon in third person or in main game view, you can see that there is an audio bar indicating we are producing noise as we walk around. And if we take a look at something like this owl right here in Commander Falk's room in the, was it second chapter of the game, we can see that it's a microphone or some sort of device that appears like a microphone and whatnot that audio can be played into. And after I figured out, hey, the audio from this song can be played directly into the owl, I was able to go from there and figure that out. But I also ended up forgetting this and ended up getting stuck on the next puzzle way later into the game, towards into the flesh bits, in which I had to do something similar, but in using different radio frequencies in order to unlock a certain code and whatnot in order to, you know, get through. Okay, I know what I ran at, so I'm just gonna go immediately back to the whole backtracking thing. A lot of the puzzles require specific key items for you to either remember or, you know, take account of. Each of these objects take up a slot in your inventory, meaning you have to empty out your inventory in order to carry multiple puzzle pieces at a time. What I intended to do was just typically carry one or two of them around me, while usually having enough meds or guns on me in order to take on whatever I faced. Additionally, I also used one of the in-game tools, specifically the eye bulb, which we get from a safe. I got it. Got what I needed. What the fuck? Which basically takes up to 6 pictures total before eventually dissipating. Apparently, according to the game, it's an outdated model and no longer used. It's kind of a wonder why Elster doesn't have one built into her, considering the fact that she's also a walking database, allowing information to be downloaded into her directly, which means she can 100% run Doom on her. Regardless, I ended up using the eyeball to quickly take pictures of things that felt important and would go through the eyeball's picture database in order to see exactly what I needed. Now combine that with the database storage, allowing us to both copy entire books into our personal character's brain? Database? Whatever. We're able to have a massive library of information that we can look through at any given moment throughout the entirety of the game, which is incredibly useful as it can help us solve puzzles and also keep track of information, allowing us to look back in case we forget something along the way, which is super helpful, especially for a forgetful guy like me, as I can just simply look into my inventory, check the database, and immediately know what I need to do in order to solve the puzzle ahead, or get a hint in order to figure out what I'm supposed to do. Then of course I can just do some trial and error and try to figure out where to do next. Now I'm not gonna go over again and why I struggle with the puzzles. I think you get the point, but a lot of them seem to resolve around expecting the player to just know and remember the information as they go on. And as a very forgetful person as myself, that was a very big problem for me overall. No fault on the game whatsoever. That's just how my brain works. And with that, we've arrived at the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed my absurd, obscene ramblings of a very sleepy man. I hope you guys, wherever you are, have an amazing day. And as always, I'll catch you next time. Make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed. And good night.